Hi you guys, welcome to Rosina Ranch Paint Nights with Lisa. Welcome for all of you who are new here. I know there's a few new people, so we're going to go over what you need before we get started and just to kind of let you know what this is on YouTube Live. There's going to be a little chat feature to the right hand side. If you guys have any problems, I know the internet's a little glitchy right now, so if you guys are seeing and I get cut out, please let me know in the chat feature, because even though I can see me, sometimes you guys can't. Also, with the chat feature, if you guys see that you are getting behind and you guys need a little bit of time to catch up, what I suggest is just going ahead and putting an H in your chat, and that will tell me, Lisa, I'm not ready, I need to slow down, hold on, and then we will give you a little bit of time to catch up and we'll move forward. Now tonight's painting is this little guy back here, our Pink Flamingo. He's probably one of my favorite paintings so far, just because one, he's really easy, two, he's really bright colors, and three, you don't really see it all come together until the very end, and then you take a step back and you're like, wow, that was actually really easy and fun, and it made this amazing, difficult looking painting. One of the other things, you guys, we will be using our fingers, so plan on getting really, really dirty tonight. Sorry, parents. Also, if you have a blow dryer, go ahead and get your blow dryer set up. Make sure you keep it on the lowest heat setting so that it doesn't crack your paint. And let's go through the supplies that you're going to need tonight. Alright, so we're going to start off. We've got our 8x10 canvas, and we're going to be painting that portrait. So that means lengthwise, up and down. Also, with today's painting, we've got your water cup and your napkin. Go ahead and fill up your water. And if any of you guys picked up supplies, this little bag can be torn apart and actually laid down to give you guys an extra workspace so that it's nice and clean, because you will get dirty. And this little guy inside is your wax mixing paper. So you're going to need that for some blending of colors later on. And then tonight we are actually using 6 different colors. Let's see. Or I'll first show you guys what you need. If you do not already have a pencil, go ahead and get a sharpened pencil. And tonight we're going to be using our 1-inch chip brush. If you guys haven't used a chip brush before, they do tend to shed, so make sure you kind of give it a good rub, get all those little extra hairs out. If you find that you get some hair stuck in your painting, just go ahead and kind of wiggle it out later. We are also going to be using our small chisel brush, which is our blue brush. And then this is going to be our number 0 fine tip brush, just for the very, very little fine detail at the end, like signing your name or doing the little eyes of the flamingo. Alright. And let me see. I think I dropped my paint. Hold on, guys. Well, let me go ahead and show you our desktop. Alright, guys. So here's our desktop. This is what you guys are going to be seeing throughout our painting. As you can see, our canvas is portrait, which means it's going lengthwise, up and down. If I said we were going to do landscape, I would turn our canvas this way, lengthwise, side to side. But today, we are doing portrait. Okay, and I'll go ahead and show you guys here what your paints will be. We've got our primary black, and I'll set that up. At the top right of your screen, you're going to be seeing the paint, in case we do any blending, or if you want to know which one I'm dipping into. We have our fluorescent hot pink we'll be using a lot of. We've got our primary white. We've got just a tinge of our primary red. We have our primary blue. And we also have our Caribbean blue. Okay, let's get all that situated so you guys can see that on the top right. And then I have our reference photo at the bottom right, so if at any time you need to go back to that reference photo, you know what we are talking about. I'll give you guys a moment to go ahead and get your water cup ready, get your blow dryer ready. This is the easy beginner's first painting class. So if you guys also have any questions throughout, do know that there is a bit of a delay in the response time that I can give you in our chat feature. But go ahead and give me a question and I will be more than glad to answer that for you. So we're going to dive straight in if you guys are ready. Again, if you need some time, just put H in the chat box. If you are going to say yes to me, just give me a nice Y so I can move forward. Right now I'm just going to ask you guys, are you ready to go? All right. I'll give you guys a little bit of time. Okay. I'm going to jump on in here, you guys. And here's the other thing too. If it gets a little too fast or you guys want to come back and watch this video, you want to pause, let your paint dry, whatever it may be, something happens, something comes up, you need to walk away, don't fret, because you guys can always come back and finish this video, because once we start filming, this is on YouTube forever. You can always come back and your paints will stay good in those little containers for up to 2 weeks. So let's go ahead and get your sharpened pencil. Now what we're going to do is, if you really look at that picture, all that flamingo is one giant S. And I know everybody knows how to make S's, right you guys? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my pencil very lightly. Again, you guys don't want to put too much pressure because pencil does tend to show up in paint, even if you do it really lightly. So we're going to do it extra light, but I'm going to do it a little bit darker so you guys can see. I want to create this big S. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down about 2 inches, maybe 2.5. I'm just going to start just an outline of what my S should look like. And I want it to be a very full S. And you know that bottom's going to be a little bit bigger. But as you can see, all I did was I made a giant S. Let me darken that up so you guys can kind of see that better. I'm going to come in and just show you my big giant S. Okay, Jade. Right now, Jade, if you could go ahead and just make that S, that will really help you move along quickly. Okay guys, and once we have that S, what I want you to do at the tip of your S right here, we're just going to make what I'm going to say is about the shape of an egg. If you guys can do the size and the shape of an egg, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly just make a circle, kind of an oval, and I'm going to get it bigger and bigger and bigger until I'm happy with the shape. And I'm going to call that good. It's about the size of an egg. Now what I want to do with this S is I kind of want to make a fat S. So now I'm going to come down and I'm just going to trace that S, but now I want to make it a little bit fatter. I'm going to make my S a little bit fatter this way. And you can come back up into the body, it doesn't matter. I'm going to erase this part because that is going to be the neck of my flamingo. And I don't want those lines to show too much because it will show through the paint. But right now, don't overthink it because it's just a simple S. Maybe I might just thicken this neck part a little bit. So let's go ahead and thicken that. And kind of round that to the top of your egg. Round this top connecting from the neck to your head. Round that up so it's connecting now. And again, I'm just going to clean this up because we don't want it to show through the paint. Just going to clean it. I was going to do a traceable with this one, but you know what? I think you guys will learn so much more without tracing. Now, I got the little head shape. What I want to do real quick is I just want to do a beak. So I'm just going to come down, let's say about here. And all you want to do is a straight line out. So slowly follow me. We're just going to go out, and then we're going to quickly go back down. Give it a little curve, and we're going to just connect it back to the face. And I'm not going to really do anything right now with that beak. I just went halfway to the face, straight line down, come back into the body, give it a little bit of a curve, and then curve it back up into the face. Okay. Now from down here, my S, I want to give it that full body. So what I'm going to do right about when I get to the very bottom is I'm going to drag this back up all the way, curve it off of my panel, my canvas. Okay, if you want to clean that up, make sure, I would say give it a little bit of room right here because you do want that blue still in there. Just go ahead, curve off your canvas. And then I'm going to try and erase the bottom part of the S so it doesn't show through my paint. And you guys just drew part of a flamingo. That was pretty easy, right? Okay, and from this you can just make sure that you're going to continue off your canvas. We're just going to make sure we don't forget that we're going to be painting the sides of our canvas as well. So at this point, if you guys want to tweak, thicken up your neck, whatever you want to do, you can do that right now. And we are going to jump into painting, and heads up because we will be getting these fingers quite messy. Alright, I'm going to ask you guys if you're ready, give me a Y in the chat feature. I think Jade, we lost you, so hopefully you're going to be back on pretty soon here. I'm going to put this pencil away because that's the only time we are going to need that pencil. And what I want you to do, if you guys can grab your chip brush, make sure it's nice and cleared off. We are working with acrylic paints today, so they do tend to dry fairly quick. And for our backdrop, we've got two different colors going on, so we do have to move fairly fast when it comes to the backdrop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chip brush and I'm going to dip it into that primary blue. Oh, sorry. Oh, don't jump ahead. Hold on. We actually are going to jump and we're going to dip that into our turquoise blue, which is this color right here, that bright ocean turquoise blue. Go ahead and load up your paint on your chip brush. I went ahead and put quite a bit. Now we're just going to go and we're going to paint our outline, and you don't want to get too close to your flamingo because we're going to come back in with a finer brush and just get those really close details, but just kind of brush anywhere on the outside. So just make sure you're not, and don't get too close because we are going to go back in with a finer brush. But just go ahead and saturate your canvas with that beautiful turquoise blue. Even down here, and see how it curves back in. We're going to go ahead and just cover some of these larger areas with our chip brush, and we're going to come back in and clean it up with one of our smaller brushes. So just be careful not to get it into that flamingo. And again, since this is a canvas wrap, I say do not forget to go ahead and paint those sides of your canvas. So make sure that side of your canvas is painted as well. And what I mean by that, go ahead and get that side really well. Gotta make sure we get that beautiful Caribbean blue in there. Make sure we still get that blue. And don't forget about your top. Get them really good. You don't want to see any white canvas left. Okay. Now, what I want to do is, in here it's a little bit narrower, so I'm going to take my chip brush and leave that in my water. I'm going to grab my chisel brush, which is this blue brush, and I'm going to dip that into my turquoise. Now I could go in and start doing more finer details. So I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to slowly work my way towards that drawing line. You don't want to go inside your flamingo. I mean, you could clean it up later with the white paint in case you do, but that just means extra work that you have to do later. So this might actually be the hardest part of the entire painting, is just painting these little intricate insides. And if it's streaky, don't worry, because we actually are going to go over it with another color just so it pops more. Okay, now I'm just going to go and with my little fine brush, I'm going to fill in all those little white gaps around my flamingo. Alright, just rounding it. Remember, don't worry if it's a little streaky, because we're about to get our fingers really dirty here. Okay, come into that little tiny canal. There we go. Just follow that line. And I picked this background because it just pops so much against that bright pink and red. It was a perfect combination. Like I said, this is probably so far my favorite painting, just because how easy it is and how much color is involved. Those vibrant tropical colors. You usually don't see those too close together. Alright. I'm going to give you guys some time to fill in that blue. Like I said, this is probably one of the hardest parts of the whole painting. But then the next part is probably the funnest part too. And remember, if you need some extra time, just go on that chat and just put H, and I'll be able to see that right away. Okay. Now, acrylic paint, like I said, does tend to dry fairly quickly. So what we're going to do next requires our fingers, and we are going to have to move a little fast, just because we want those two acrylic paints to be wet so they blend really well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out my little primary blue. Alright, I'm going to show it up here so you guys can see it better. Now what I like to do is I like to just dip two fingers very lightly, very, very lightly in my blue paint. I don't want too much blue paint on my fingers. And what I'm going to do is literally going to make my fingers dance on this paint. And again, I'm going to try to avoid not going into any of this white, but I'm going to take my fingers, and my fingers are going to do this motion across my canvas like this. And I'm just going to literally dance them all the way down. And when I run out of paint, I'm going to come back and just put two little drops of paint again on my fingertips. And I want to start on the top and just dance my fingers down. kind of in a dancing motion. And you're going to want your blues to go over each other. You want lots of crazy, crazy streaks going on in the background. So don't take this serious. Take a deep breath. This isn't the fun part. You're supposed to enjoy this. So again, you're just going to start doing those little finger dances all along your canvas. Just get crazy. Get crazy, but still don't go in the white. Here's what happens if you do go in the white. It's perfectly fine. What's going to happen is you're just going to go over it with some extra white paint and make sure that it's dry before adding your pink. That's all. So if you do happen to get in there, do not fret. It is correctable. And I'm just going to keep on adding those blue finger streaks, making those fingers dance, taking a little extra precaution when I'm inside here because I know I gotta move up into that narrow little space right here. But I just want to streak my fingers all through that blue. And the other thing too is while we're doing this canvas on the front, do not forget you have some canvas on the side. So I like to put a little bit of paint and make sure I get that side canvas just as good. Because then that color is continuing. Oh, even the top. Don't forget the top. Just dance those fingers along, coming down the sides. And I almost forgot the inside, so I'm just going to take one finger and just lightly add some streaks on the inside. See, I got a little bit in my white, and I'm not too worried because I can always go ahead and correct that later. Okay, I'm just going to keep adding some more blue until I feel like I've got a really cool looking backdrop to work with. Lots of blues, lots of bright turquoise. It's going to make that pink pop really nice. Alright, and now that I got you guys completely dirty, you can either continue painting with these fingers or you can go ahead and dip them in your water and wash them off. Use your paper towel. Okay, what I'm going to do now, let me dip this a little bit more. I'm going to use my chisel brush. So really, really clean that chisel brush really well. And you want to dry it really well too. We're going to be using white on this, so you need to make sure it's really clean. Okay? Now let's go ahead and we're going to dip our chisel brush into our white paint. Okay, grab some white. As you can see, I loaded up with white. And this is the time where we're just going to kind of lay down a foundation where our flamingo is going to be. And if you got a little bit of blue into your flamingo, this is when you can kind of correct that by just painting over it. Right now I'm pretty much focused on taking away any brush lines, or sorry, pencil lines that I made earlier. So I'm just going to go and completely cover everything in white that I see that's white already, just so that our pink can really pop. I'm going to load it up with some more white. I'm just going to paint everything white. And this is a good time just to clean up your lines with that white, in case you got a little bit of blue in there. And I really like the feathers because, you know, we're not talking long strokes. It's really just tons and tons of feather layering. So every picture is going to be super unique. All the feathers are going to be unique. It's going to be one of a kind. And surprisingly, we get to that ugly stage, which I'll tell you when we're at that ugly stage, and you just don't see it, and then all of a sudden it all just comes together and you guys will be amazed at your paintings. Okay, I'm going to continue again. I'm going to use this time to just clean up any of my lines, try to take away any of those pencil streaks that I see in there, just so my paint can really stand out. Okay, going over some of these paint marks or pencil marks. Alright, almost there, guys. Just fill this in real quick. And if you don't fill it in all the way before we move to the next step, that's fine too. This is just so that that pink is extra vibrant. What the canvas is, what is put on first is called gesso. And it's kind of like white paint, but it's got a little bit of other stuff in it too, which just makes it really nice and thick. But this white paint just layering on top of the gesso is just going to be that much nicer. Alright, I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, when you guys are doing streaks, kind of brush and stroke in one direction, because you will be surprised that when we do start painting, your paint's going to show those streaks underneath it. But we are going to do a lot of layering, which you're not going to see too much of that at the end. Alright, from here I need to make sure that this white is completely dry. So the best way to do that is with my handy dandy blow dryer. I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is set on the lowest setting. And I'm going to dry this for about 1 minute to 2 minutes until all that shine from the white is completely gone and it's matte, and when we touch it, we're not pulling up any paint. Okay, I'm going to start now. Just drying my paint. Hopefully you guys are doing this with me. Make sure it's completely dry. We definitely don't want to paint that pink and mix it with that white yet, because then it's going to get this really soft white pink, and we don't want that. We want pink like my lips, nice and bright. Alright, let me check and see. For me, everything is coming up clear. So I think my paint is dry. Okay, hopefully you guys have gotten to the point where you think your paint is all dry. It won't be shiny anymore. It'll be nice and flat or matte. Double check again once it's cooled down. Yeah, mine is pretty dry. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my chisel brush, clean it out really well again. Make sure you have that dried off. Dry that chisel brush really well. If you can, I kind of like tend to pinch and pull on it just so that those little brush heads get close together, because they tend to spread out when I wash my brush. So go ahead and just pinch. Make sure all those bristles are nice and tight. And what we're going to do is we're going to work just on our hot pink background. And that's pretty much the entire flamingo, except for that beak part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the hardest part first with you guys, so that we can move on and just start covering our flamingo in pink. Let's dip it. Nice big glob of hot pink. And what I want to do is I'm going to start where its chin is, at the bottom of its face, and I'm going to focus on just coming all the way down. Don't paint yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint all the way down to right here where that beak starts, and I'm going to go straight up, and I'm just going to curve it a little bit back down to his forehead. So watch me before you try to do it. So let's go. We're going to go down to the bottom of the beak, straight up, and I'm going to curve it around and back to the forehead. So I went from the chin straight down, from the bottom of his chin I went straight up, and then curved it back down into the forehead. And that's going to give our little resting place for his eye, or her eye. However you want, boy or girl, it's up to you. And now from here, that was the hardest part, so I can just go ahead and paint over all of my white on the body this nice, beautiful hot pink. So I'm just going to start painting. And again, if you are painting in short streaks, that's fine. Just kind of make sure you're going in one direction, so I'm not like right here going straight up and down. I'm actually following the direction of the S. I want to follow that S. I don't want to go completely straight up and down, because then you're going to see your streaks like that. So if you are moving in little streaks, make sure you're doing it in the shape of an S. Now when you get here, this is the only other part you have to be careful with, because that beak, you can kind of see it through the white, that beak goes a little bit into our neck. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take that pink paint and just make sure I do not get that little part, that beak, into my pink. So I'm just going to go around that, and that's it. And everywhere else I could just go crazy and paint pink, except for my beak, of course. I'm keeping this white for now. And we're just going to go ahead and paint all this bright, bright pink. Just make sure if you are doing little strokes, you're following them with that S shape. Or you can do long strokes in that S shape. It's up to you. Because we're going to be covering the majority of this pink in little tiny brush strokes. So if you want to do it now or later, it's up to you. And like I just showed you guys, sometimes I might just go off my white, which is perfectly fine because the flamingo has feathers. And you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to look really nice once we start layering all those colors. And you see that beautiful, beautiful red. I know some of you guys are super smart and you guys have already heard this a million times, but do you guys know where flamingos get their beautiful hot pink color from? It is from algae, which some people do not know, but it's also from the shrimp that they eat. And the way you guys can do that at home is if you ever cooked raw shrimp, or if your parents ever cooked raw shrimp, and you see that gray kind of fleshy tone in that shrimp, and then once it gets boiled or cooked, it starts to turn that pink color. That's from a thing called beta carotene, And that is what actually colors our flamingos. Flamingos are naturally born with gray feathers. So they are not very pretty, they are not very bright, but their diet makes them beautiful. Alright, just gonna load up that pink paint, and right here I could just kind of go crazy because this is all gonna be covered in pink. So I can just do my streaks, nice long brush strokes or short brush strokes, it's up to you. You can do short brush strokes, long brush strokes. But right now we're just going to fill this in. Okay, I'm going to trace that white. I want to cover that white and just barely go into that blue so that white's not showing anymore. So if you go into that blue, it's perfectly fine, as long as you don't see that vibrant white canvas popping out at you. Like I said, I'm just going to do some short brush strokes all the way down. Yeah, another really cool thing I learned when I was just Googling flamingos is I thought it was a complete myth, but supposedly flamingos have red pink milk. I thought somebody was joking when they said that, but turns out that's a real thing. That's crazy. Again, probably from what they were eating. And don't forget to do the bottom of your canvas as well. Make sure it gets lots of color. There we go. Yeah, I see a lot of white canvas. Let's go ahead and fill that in. Okay. I'm going to take a step back and just kind of look at it. There might be some spots where you just see a lot of white shining through, or you might see white on your outline that you need to go over. Just kind of go a little bit into your blue just so that white gets covered. Now remember, again, be really careful when you get up to the head and when you get around the beak, because you don't want to paint this pink, but if you do, no worries, because we are covering that in black and you will not see anything beyond black. Okay guys, now I know there's a bunch of perfectionists out there, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to just kind of touch up your paint, get a little more detail going in there, whatever you guys want. And again, remember, if you feel like you're really far behind at this point, you can always come back. This video is always going to be up here. And you guys can do it at your pace whenever you guys want. Alright. So what I want to do is I don't want to clean this brush. I actually want to leave that pink on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus kind of on my shadows. So a lot of flamingos have pink, but they also have a lot of red in them. I'm going to dip this chisel brush into my red right now. Okay, and this is going to be wet, but what I'm going to do is right now, before I'm laying down paint, you're going to be doing tiny, small brush strokes. You're going to not get too crazy with these brush strokes, but I'm going to start on the bottom because shadows tend to fall on the bottom. So I'm just going to do tiny brush strokes on the bottom. And you don't want to cover your entire flamingo, but you do want to add in this red, because flamingos do have a lot of red. And it might not look that pretty, but when it dries, it will actually look a lot prettier. And I'm just doing these little brush strokes kind of on the outline of my S. Just little tiny brush strokes. I'm not loading up right now with paint because I don't want to put too much paint on here. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of paint now. You don't want to load up too much paint on your brush, then you're going to lay down too much red. But I'm going to continue just kind of along that S and just do little brush strokes of red. They don't have to be on perfect, they don't have to be on top of each other. Just little brush strokes of red. And now I'm going to do the same thing starting at the back of her neck, or his neck. I'm just going to do some little brush strokes coming down. And this is what I call my ugly stage. When you're just like, what is going on with this flamingo? He is a hot mess. And then you slowly start building up layers and then you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It looks so much better when it's done. So right now, kind of like the ugly duckling and the ugly swan, he's going to be beautiful at the end. Trust me. And again, we're just going to continue following those little red brush strokes all the way along that S. And that red kind of will blend into your hot pink as it dries. Make sure it's not on there too thick. But we're just going to start brushing some red into those feathers while the paint's all wet. Okay, and now I want to add a little bit of red feathers all throughout its body. So just get a very, very small amount of red again. And in the direction following that S, I'm just going to add in a few brush strokes, just flicking. I'm actually just going to flicking in some red. And if you decide that you like your flamingo to just be extra, extra pink, it's completely up to you. You don't have to make yours look exactly like mine. In fact, it shouldn't look exactly like mine. It should be very unique to you. And if you want to go back in and add more hot pink, because you have a lot of hot pink, that is up to you too. You can make this a very hot pink flamingo. Okay, now that I just did some of that red, I do want to go in and start doing some highlights and light feathers, so I do have to wash my chisel brush really well. Okay, so wash that chisel brush, dry it off really well, and again I like to pinch my fibers so that they're nice and tight after washing. Now we're going to do a little bit of blending here, mixing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white and just a tiny drop of hot pink to make a very, very soft light pink. And you can see that at the top right. So grabbing just a small dab of my hot pink, I'm going to grab a scoop of my white, and I want a very, very soft light pink. Even softer than that. Go ahead and get yourself a very, very light pink going. Now once I have a very soft pink, I'm just going to add some color into its beak. So kind of turn your brush at an angle and just plop it right here, a little bit above the start of your face, and you're just going to drag that down and just come back and kind of just paint this in, almost like a little rectangle, a rectangle of pink. I want to go ahead and cover up any of that white right here, coming down. And just drag that back up and make a little rectangle of pink. And I want to come to the side of it and just lay my brush down and just do one streak coming down into his nose. That's it. Because right here we're going to go in, we're going to paint this with all black, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do one streak coming down and then kind of a little rectangle to the side of it. And from here, we can take that pretty pink and we can add in some highlights. So usually highlights like to hit the top of things with little brush strokes. I'm going to follow that S. I'm going to go all the way into the middle and just start flicking in some white highlights following that S. All on that top. Again, the light's going to hit right where it starts to curve, so I'm just going to do some light brush strokes. You don't want to go too crazy with your brush strokes because then you're really going to make this flamingo look a lot more soft pink, unless that's the look you're going for. You can make her very soft pink or him very soft pink, but just know the more white you add, the brighter your flamingo is going to get, and it's not going to be that vibrant hot pink. And again, the light's going to kind of hit that flamingo from this area, so we need to add a little bit of highlights. And this is when you start to think, wow, okay, I'm starting to see the flamingo. And I'm just going to follow my streaks from prior. Look, I haven't reloaded my brush. I'm really kind of dry brushing at this point, which means there's not much paint left. And I'm just kind of using whatever paint is left on here, and I'm doing some nice long flicks just to kind of give it some feathers down here. If you want, you could put some more white paint or soft pink paint, on your brush. It's up to you. And I do want to add a little bit more feathers, so I'm going to do that with my light pink. And it's really cool if you kind of start a little bit above your line right here, just so there's extra feathers coming in to your picture. I'm going to add some really bright feathers coming in. This is kind of when you go, aha, I see it now. It's all coming together. Just like that. And just that quickly, too. Just kind of tracing over some. Don't want to go too heavy. But I am liking it. Hopefully you like yours too. Do you like yours so far? I hope so. Alright, now let's go ahead and wash out that chisel brush. We tend to use him a lot. Give him a good wash. Dry off your chisel brush. Again, I like to make sure it's nice and tight, so I like to pinch the top of my chisel brush, keeping those little hairs together. And I'm very, very lightly going to just dip the tip of my chisel brush in my black paint. So, very lightly, just dip the tip of your chisel brush in that black paint. Now let's come back to the beak. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a little, just barely above where those little pink lines are that you made. And I'm going to do, before laying down my brush, I'm just going to do one streak going down into the beak. Ooh, door shut. Scared me. So let's go ahead and just at the very, you're not laying your brush completely flat, you're just using the very tip to do a very fine line down onto the beak, and just have it go all the way into the beak. So just use a very fine line down to the beak. And once you get down to the beak, where that pink touches that white, you're just going to go over it with the black. And you're going to paint in all that white. Just curve as you get down to the tip. Just curve it back around. Remember, this is all with practice. With more practice, you're going to get better at that. Just curving with your wrist. But if you travel down, you just can curve it with your finger and roll it in your fingers, and that gives a nice little round tip. I do need some more black. Go ahead, fill this in. I'm going to curve it a little bit more, make sure there's no white left. I don't want to see any white in the painting. And from here, I'm just going to connect it back to the side of that beak and fill in all that white. Just that easy. Actually, it might be a little bit difficult, but you know, that's the part that just comes with practice. The more you practice painting, the better you're going to get every single time. Okay, and while I do have some black, not very much black, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add like a little brush stroke right there. Just for definition, just to make it pop a little bit more. And I'm going to throw that back in the water. And I'm going to use our little 0 brush, which is a very fine tip brush. And I'm going to do the eye. And all that eye is right here is the tiniest circle. I'm talking a little bit slightly smaller than a dime. Bigger than a pea, smaller than a dime. And if you can, while you don't have any paint on there, just practice making a nice little circle while it's dry, just so you get that hand motion. You realize you're barely moving your hand, and it kind of just whips around and creates that circle. You're barely touching the canvas and moving it in a circle. So now that I got that circle motion down, I'm just going to put a little bit of black on my tip. I got a little bit of black, so maybe a little bit more. Now, with that same motion, just go ahead and set it down, and very slowly make that same motion, very lightly touching the canvas. And you're just going to make a circle. And your circle might not be perfect, I will tell you. A circle is not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things you can learn to paint is a circle. So if you can get that circle down, just go in and you're going to make a half circle on the inside. However you want, just make a little half circle. Kind of like a U. Just give it a nice little U on the inside. And then while you have a little bit of paint, this is when you could go in and just clean up any little areas you might see a little bit of white in your beak. Just like that. You can clean up or add a few streaks up here if you want. It's up to you, because this is your painting. You guys see that? Hopefully that was easy. I don't want you, again, if you guys don't get that circle perfect, it's all about practice. So what I always say is, while you don't have anything on your brush, just practice circular motions with your hands. And you're not putting a lot of pressure down, because you see this has a long tips and bristles. So you just want to use the very, very tip of it, just lightly making circles. So that's going to be the hardest part of this whole painting, is those circles. But once you have your eye down and you touched up, you can go ahead right now and add in some hot pink if you want. Just make sure anytime you're adding in, you're just using those little tiny brush strokes so they kind of look like feathers. And then I'm going to take this little guy, I'm going to dip him in white. And I'm going to sign my initials, and you can sign your initials here on the bottom or wherever you want. I just think it's a nice little extra space here to put your little initials. And I hope you guys can take a step back and really enjoy your flamingo painting. Because really, if you guys can get that S down, you guys got it down easy. And then we got our finger painting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I might even go back in and just kind of straighten out this little white here. Just my personal preference. I like to have a little bit flatter. It's up to you. All of ours should look a little bit different. But you should love it because that's a really, really awesome painting. Super bright, lots of fun characteristics. It's one of my favorite paintings so far. So you guys, that is it for tonight. Again, if you guys need to go back and pause it, do it at your own pace. That's perfectly up to you. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. So this is our model from before, and this is what I painted tonight. So as you can see, a little bit different, but still similar. Every time you paint something, it's not going to be exact, but I love it. It's nice and bright, and it's really colorful, just like my lipstick tonight. If you guys want, in my my YouTube About Me page, there should be a Facebook link, and that's when I can see any of your guys' work of art. Can't think tonight. But if you guys go in there and you click on that link, it will take you to our Facebook page, and you can go ahead and post pictures, and I can comment them and just see how you guys are doing. If you guys have any questions, this is the time to ask. I'm going to be on here for a few more seconds, or you can leave a comment over on the Facebook page. I hope you guys had a great time. Hope you had a great night. Try and stay cool. I know tonight's gorgeous. We finally dropped below 100 degrees, so I think we're going to head out to the pool now. But I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Thursday nights, regular class, 7 p.m. Tuesday night, beginners, 7 p.m. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye, you guys.